Last lap of the morning right Tuesday edition this morning. Thank you very much. It's 7 minutes gone past the hour of 11 this morning. This is the back pass with PATRYK EDEKE. My name is Sharon Mando and I'm standing in for Mr. PATRYK EDEKE this morning, but I'm not alone.
Yeah, usually you'd hear another voice, not this, but today it's another voice we're listening on at the back pass with PATRYK EDEKE. PATRYK has anointed us to take over this program today, and we've got to do justice to it, just like we know he's listening to us. I am Anifiok Enquiry. Once again, good morning.
All right, as usual, on the back pass, we get to talk about things that deal with the state, the Enquiry state, things about the state government and some of the policies that they've put in place, some of the decisions. Today, we're going to be talking about something that sparked conversations and reactions from so many people across the Enquiry state. And we have in the studio a special advisor to the governor on new media, Madam Hilary Umodofia. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Just to correct, it's special assistant, not special advisor.
Sorry, special assistant.
Good morning to all our private rights and Nigerians who are tuned into the program today.
Thank you very much.
And a pleasure to be on Memories FM. It happens to be my very first time here.
Oh, really? We'd love to have you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. All right, so following reactions trailing the proposed construction of 18th floor apartment building of Ibom Towers in Lagos, on the social and electronic media as announced by the state governor, His Excellency Pastor Moeno, the state government has come out to set the record straight and also explain the rationale behind the investment. In a press release signed by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Enquiry, the 18th story commercial property on Victoria Island, Lagos State, will serve as an income earner which will increase the state internally generated revenue, IGR. The statement also stated that the governor's administration will convert the current state liaison office in Abuja to a 3-story hotel that will also generate income to the state treasury. All right, Amanda, let's have you have more insights on what's going on with the 18th-story building project.
First, I want to start from the fact that there was really no controversy. For me, the concern stems from the fact that people are beginning to be, more demanding for more accountability in governance, and which we know is a constitutional right which they are entitled to. Government from time to time must brief people on what it intends to do, and also citizens can also give feedback on how they want to receive those programs. But what we seem not to be comfortable about is the fact that over the years there seems to be a trend whereby anytime government program or policy, some persons from a point of maybe misunderstanding, not properly being informed on that thing, could go to express some distrust or mistrust about the direction of that government wants to do. Where we want to discourage that you essentially don't need to bully government. If government wants to, as ruling out a program or ruling out an incentive or whatever it is you want to do, you have the right as citizens to ask questions. And if government can offer proper explanation, it is what citizens should trust in government and then give it that benefit of doubt to see what will come out at the end of the day. That's one side. The other side is the fact that we know that this administration is not existing in isolation. There were previous administrations before now. We've had other governors who come in to do their various bits to develop the state, and governance is a continuum. You can only continue from where the last person has stopped. As a state, we've been building infrastructures. We've also seen this government concentrate beyond building infrastructures on building people in terms of developing capacities. And one of the areas that the governor has identified is the need for us to divest, looking at other avenues to sustain ourselves beyond oil. We know our state is an oil-reliant economy, and we rely from what really comes mostly from the IGR and then the federal allocation that comes. So some of the avenues identified by the state included, moribund investments that the state had before now, which were not really, put to use properly. And the governor's initiative is saying that he wants to convert and see how to commercialize this investment. Just this morning, I was listening to somebody talk about the 21 story in Udodoma, and was trying to compare notes And my explanation is that, you can't compare Akwa Ibom with Lagos. The fact and truth is that we have an existing property market that we can readily buy into as a state. And that's what the governor wants to do. A purely commercial, residential property that will generate revenue for government year in, year out. And so, for me, while people are concerned, I think we should give the government the benefit of the doubt for them to see if their plans can come into fruition. Already, I know that investors are ready, the other persons are ready to patronize that when government does that. And then ultimately, also talk about the liaison office. I've recently been to the liaison office, and for me, I also agree with the opinion that those kind of properties were not really put to use to maybe generate more revenue for government. So yes, we agree that citizens can ask questions, but I think we should be factual in asking those questions and stay away from steering controversies where none really exist.
Let me ask a follow-up to that before Ursula comes in. Your first point, when you're talking about the fact that citizens were saying certain things, some citizens were saying certain things. Our governor mentioned this 18-story building when he was during the groundbreaking ceremony of a proposed luxury garden, where he announced that he was going to undertake the construction of Ibom Towers. Do you think that at that point there was proper communication? Because I remember that it wasn't like there wasn't like so much emphasis laid on it. Do you think that this was a situation where all the details were not out, and because of the fact that people did not get all the details, they were asking questions, and that's how rumors and
I want to tell you that we live in a country, and we cannot run away from certain facts and realities. The reality is that because of certain things that has happened over the years as a country, people are having this, anytime government wants to do something, people are raising eyebrows at it. The governor only made a passing mention about the Ibom Towers without, or other details were not given. And so, most people jumped on it and thought it wasn't relevant. But now government has come out with proper explanations and communication on what it is about and why people are beginning to see reasons for, with the government. But then the other thing is the fact that I think when we have leaders like Governor Mano, he doesn't really hide it, he says it the way it is, and without keeping up other details from the people. We should trust the process and give him that benefit of that. That's what I've been saying from the onset. And saying that if he had just made a passing mention, I think we should have given him that leverage for him to come and brief us properly before we start expressing some fears, where some people were even planning some protests, some even raised petitions and all of that. And if you want to go to other states of the country, we don't exist as just in isolation, like I said before. We also belong to other sub-nationals. States like Adamawa and a few northern states, Gombe State, had converted most of their liaison offices and their, the lodges they have in Lagos into purely commercial properties, and are generating revenue from them. And we cannot, as a state at this point, shy away from ventures that can be more profitable for us as a state, create jobs for us as a people, and also ultimately because government needs money to run, to carry out policies and programs. And so if there are venues, we can tap into them. There is nothing essentially wrong with that.
Okay, this is Back Pass with PATRYK EDEKE, and we have Amana in the house. Now, Amana, at the foundation laying ceremony recently, like my colleague said at the luxury gardens, we heard about the start of a building, an 18-floor tower to be named the Ibom Towers. Do you think this is the right time to go in view of the grappling and skyrocketing food prices triggered by the removal of petrol subsidy by the federal government? Is the government in focus with this development?
The government is rallying. Justification is clearly from the fact that one, we didn't just come out the government didn't just come out to talk about the development of Ibom Towers. In the last, because the government officially clocked 1 year on May 29th. And we are in July, so that's over about 14 months, almost 14 months.
That's right.
We've seen the governor being intentional about his policies and programs that are more people-centric and people-oriented. First time in the history as a state, where you have the governor emphasize more on the issue of rural development, talking about those that ideally were not captured in terms of the focus of governance over the years. We've had concentrations of development and programs in the urban centers, and so the governor is coming out with various incentives to see what can we do as a state to tap into other resources. I'm talking about in terms of our human resources. One, he has trained entrepreneurs in the state. You will always hear young people who complain about, if you ask them, why are you not in business? A lot of persons who have lofty business ideas do not have what it takes to finance the businesses. What this government is doing is to train entrepreneurs. After training them, it provides the seed capital they need for them to take off their businesses and are running. That is the first time you are hearing that as a state. We've had that in the BOM-led, through the BOM-led, which is now legalized as sort of a framework, a policy framework that guides and trains future entrepreneurs to streamline them with global best practices in terms of their chosen business endeavors. We have the EDEKE case, which was also rolled out. At a time where we need to caution the effect of the subsidy removal, what the governor did was to introduce what we call the bulk purchase, the bulk purchase agency, which distribute free vouchers to people to redeem. And we're looking at the poorest of the poor. We've also had the government carry out programs that are targeted at the elites. First time you will hear a government talking about in terms of incentives for the elderly, payment of gratuities, at least for persons who had served the statement meritoriously and should end a life after, in terms of their pension and their gratuities, should end a life after their dedication for the state. We've also had the Dakota Skills Acquisition Center, which is just about to run. I am aware of the fact that screening for admission is ongoing. So my focus and point is that over the years, successive governments in the state, we are a state really blessed and privileged to have had good governance. At least from 1999, since our return to democracy, had Obon Vitota, who came up with the foundation. His Excellency Obon Goslo Pabio also came up to develop infrastructures. Mr. Odomi Emmanuel did his bid in terms of developing and building up on those infrastructures. And now we have a governor who not only wants to sustain the infrastructures that we have, but is also seeing how we can develop our human capital development, because that's one angle we can make our people become more resourceful to themselves and to the state. A time where we need to create jobs and also get our people off the street. So the governor is doing well in those areas. So balancing that alone, I want to say that even in our private, at our private levels as individuals, you cannot eat everything. As you feed yourself today, you have to plan for tomorrow. And the only way you can plan for tomorrow is to invest. And so there is nothing wrong that side by side, while we look at measures to cushion the effect of the subsidy removal and ease up the economic hardship on people, there is nothing wrong side by side also tapping into other ventures to invest for the state.
Because that was one of the issues that Akwa Ibom might raise, talking about how that money could have been used to put into something, another project, to make sure that there's employment and then there's jobs for
if you're talking about projects, what projects can you talk more than we have a governor who is building model primary schools across the state? I mean, go to Barracks Road. I was really somehow emotional sometime last month when I saw pupils from CKS Primary School, well kitted with school uniforms and school bags and all of that. And then I was beginning to, emotional in the sense that you rarely could find that in a public school. It is always about private schools who could provide that level of conducive environment for learning for pupils. What I'm so particular about primary schools, because that's the foundation for any child. And so that is replicated across the state. We are having the buildings of primary health centers across the state. We are having the issue of building infrastructures like roads across the state. And so these are critical things that we are doing. That we're saying that beyond doing this, that we also need to secure our future. We shouldn't get to a point where we had a time in this country where the federal government had to even give states bailout because some states were struggling to survive. And so we don't want to wait for that point as a people. We're saying that if there are ventures that we can embark on to create more jobs and generate more income for government, There is nothing wrong with that. So we are doing that equally. The governor is doing that.
Yes, Madam, you're talking about creation of more jobs and employment as well. I wonder how many of Akwa Ibomites will be employed at Lagos, at Abuja. Well, according to the government spokesperson, we understand that the state government is also planning to build a medium density housing besides the one at the housing at the nation's capital, Abuja. That is another Ibom Towers. All right. So okay, another one at the liaison office located in the nation's capital. With all of these, no figures are attached as per what revenues these projects will accrue to the state, and of course funds or proceeds from Ibom Air is locking in the dark. Nobody knows what's happening, and who are the managers of these projects. We are not aware of the managers of these, and also the funds that will be accruable to the state. Such things should be. Don't you think we should be accountable to all of these?
Now, when you just talked about Ibom Air, it reminds me of the fact that this initial, skepticisms were there when Ibom, when the former government or the former governor wanted to start off Ibom Air. People kept saying government has no business doing business. That's one cliche that people really clicked or rely on. The other fact was that they said it was bound to fail. The Ibom Air alone is a model enough to show that a state can indeed embark on business ventures and it can thrive and succeed. That's one. The other fact is that we have an arm of government in this state. I'm talking about the Akwa Ibom State Investment Corporation, which really manages most of the investments of the state. So
invested in it, and the ones that you will also be getting from it. I
align with the direction given by His Excellency that when speaking to Akwa Ibom people, we should be factual. Where facts and information are not available to me, I can come on air and dwell on them when I do not know about them.
Okay, so how do we make sure that this doesn't end up like other projects in the past that get abandoned at some point? How do we make sure that this is it continues to generate revenue for the longest time?
When you talk about abandonment, I think I should ask you back, as in which of the investments have we had as a state that has been abandoned?
This particular project that we're talking about, are we starting it from the scratch?
Yes, we are. Now let me just give a preview about the project. The fact is that that was initially the Akwa Ibom State, the lodge in Lagos, in a prime location, the VI. Anybody who has been to Lagos, perhaps has lived in Lagos, will know the business viability of owning a property within the the VI. Those are the prime locations in Lagos. And then we had an expanse land. The pictures we saw over the weekend is that of something that has become that sort of a harbor for I don't know how to describe that. A good prime property like that lying wastefully, the old buildings commissioned by His Excellency late Osinka are dilapidated.
So it's not so abandoned is not the word.
So that what I'm saying that is the fact that
we have maintenance culture.
Now the truth is that we have a lodge now. The immediate past government of Odemimano, has relocated. We have a proper lodge at Enquiry. And saying that because we've had this other property at VI which is not put into use properly, it is a business of government to see how to manage the property of the state. And so what the government is doing is to say, let's go and use what we have instead of even selling off the property or perhaps maybe wanting to rent it out. You might not maximize the value for that property as it is if you can develop it into that kind of a property. That's the opinion of government.
All right, now the opinion of government certainly is grassroots oriented. We are aware of this because of some of the visions of the government that has to touch on the lives of the downtrodden. For instance, every month the elderly and the infirm receive 50,000 naira monthly for their upkeep, and the bulk purchase agency, the free food voucher program, over 100,000 families have been touched. Honestly, I give it to His Excellency Pastor Omo Eno for such great programs for the needy, and as well the social register, which have impacted the lives of thousands of families in the state. And now with all of these, don't you think His Excellency has too much on his hands? If he reduces that to a couple of them so that he can be able to handle.
I think that really shows the fact that the governor himself is a man of capacity. If you have the wherewithal, to carry all of that at the same time, there is nothing wrong with that. The only problem where you can express that is that over the years, like I said, we've been privileged to have governors who come up and then do their bit. So he is properly informed on what his choices of actions and directions are, and he knows that he can undertake them, for the benefit of the people. And to show this, when this government came on in May 29, we know their rights agenda was the manifesto, was the campaign manifesto. What this government did was to see how to streamline the conversations and broaden up conversations about what should be the agenda for the state. That led to to what we call the boom dialogue. During that dialogue, a lot of proposals, from stakeholders in the state, bringing everybody, regardless of whatever affiliations they had, at least from the technocrats and the private sector, to come and speak and make presentations on what to do to better the state. So these are a result of all the inputs gathered during the boom dialogue. So taking them one step at a time, the things we need to do in the midterm, we do them. The short term, we do them. But the things we also need to do for the long term, we're also doing that.
Let's take you back to when the 21-story building, was built. There was a promise. I think there was a plan at the time that a particular business, a particular company will come, take over the building, will be running their businesses there, and eventually the building was done, and the company didn't show up. Now the question here is, in order to prevent what happened then again to happen now, how do we attract, or how does the Akwa Ibom State government intend to attract businesses to the Ibom Towers?
If you look at the detail of, first of all, let me clarify the issue about the Dakada Towers, now known as the Udo Emmanuel Towers. The truth is that there are certain limitations we have as a state, especially on matters where it has to do with the oil and gas industry. We know certain matters are on the exclusive list, some are on the concurrent list. So without the necessary cooperation from the federal government, some things might not be possible. Why I'm saying that is that as a state, it is a desire that the multinationals who exploit our resources, let me not use the word exploit, who patronize our resources, should come and relocate their offices to Akwa Ibom, so that at least that could stimulate economic activities in those locations, and see how the issue of the job creation we talked about earlier. So unfortunately, that hasn't happened. That is also being rolled out, because I know that presently the what we call the Bank of Industry is presently at the 21-story building at Udodoma, and we used to hear about what the BOI does in other states, and so we've had that attracted to the state and that permanently there. We're believing that other ventures or other businesses would come there, but the model for the Ibom Towers is slightly different in the sense that it is purely a residential property. We have self-contained, and then we have single rooms, 2 bedrooms, which there are models like that, by other. I'm talking about private models like that in Lagos that are thriving. So far we do the basics, come up with the basic quality that we need to put out, and then people can really buy into that. So it is not. There's no fear at all about that.
Okay, Amanam Umo Utofia is our guest here in the studio. Amanam, let's go to the US, where we know we have a property there as well. We have one at Abuja, we have one at the US, and we have another one in Lagos, and perhaps let's say in Dubai and elsewhere. Now, in all of these projects, who are the managers? How do the maintenance cost, who is going to bear it? And that's going to be perhaps directly from the taxpayers' money. And
I've already told you that we have an agency of government that is in charge of that.
Maintenance.
The Ibom A you talked about is a property of the state. Other things like the Ibom Towers also are properties of the state.
Yeah,
so
now, if I have to land,
the agency of
are we not
government,
looking at capital flights?
No, not at all. In fact, the agencies of government that is responsible for that ACICOP, they are in charge of in terms of maintenance and ensuring that our stake in those properties are maintained. That's the sole agency of government that is responsible for that. So in terms of capital flight, the other matter I want to say is this: we have certain things we can export as a state. But if we don't even have host locations, what I don't want to talk about Lagos, we can decide to take of what we have here and showcase in Lagos through the Ibom Towers. There's nothing wrong with that. You cannot exist in isolation as a state. You must be able to align with other subnationals in terms of your ideas and projects and programs, and see how you can tap into what they have. We've had other persons who are coming to this state. We know presently we have a petrochemical company that is ongoing in Istanbul.
Yeah.
The person could have said, okay, because I'm not from Enquiry, let me take it to my state. But because the person must have done an assessment of how viable it could be in Enquiry, that person brought it here solely for economic reasons. What economics are you talking about? To make profit and income.
So what's the projected timeline of these Ibom Towers?
That will be discussed at the appropriate time in terms of completion, and when the certain details, technical details like that, will be provided for the benefit of people.
Okay, and some of these projects, some people say have not passed through the knowledge of the House of Assembly. In other words, tenders have not been, advertised for those that wish to do businesses there or that wish to contribute to the, real estate development in the state. But suddenly, it's always on the press that this so and so has been done, so and so has been, erected and initiated. Is it the right thing for these projects to have been initiated without the people having the knowledge of it, first of all?
Government only declared its intention to build Ibom Towers. Other requirements and processes will be complied with. There is no project of this state that has never been, more budgeted for or planned, given approval for by the House of Assembly. I'm very much aware of the fact that we have a House of Assembly that passes budgets. So if maybe that was a fresh item, if there is need for supplementary budget, that will be done. But I'm aware of the fact that the processes will be complied with. The FGPC, the bidding process will be done. So there is no need for anybody to have such fears at the moment. What we need to do is to allow government to do what it needs to do in a proper and right manner.
All right, let's open the phone lines now to hear from the listener. I was going to talk about this mobile issue with the Dakada Towers, but then let's open the phone lines first of all and get reactions from the listener. 0803 085 7755 or 0809 066 6909. These are the phone numbers to call us on.
Hello.
Good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Lady Sharon.
Good morning to you, Akban.
Good morning.
Good morning, the all Senate.
I agree to you. Good morning, Akban.
And good morning, the gang.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is Akban calling from you.
You're welcome.
I think if we should bear our mind, that project, that 18-story building, is not important at this moment. Let's not forget that former President Olusegun Obasanjo had passed a law that said should transmit
Thank
the
you.
government should get this man.
Thank you,
That's all.
Akban. All right, we're still taking calls for reactions from the special assistant to the governor on new media. 0803 085 7755.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, nice to have you.
Yes, sir. My contribution towards it. In a way now, I don't think we need such a project for now. Because if we should go to import companies that will employ up to 50, minimum, let's say 50 to 100 workers. We have this cassava mill. There's an online thing that I watch, which is a factory that produces cassava. Process it to Enquiry, to the finish with it. When the water, the tank is being used to produce all these drugs that we are taking. So it's like a Panadol. So if some company comes in to buy at least it will also attract people to come in. People will come in for business. They're building hotels outside. What? In Lagos, they're going to build hotels outside now. Those projects are here. We are going to pay tax for it, alright?
Yeah.
Yes, we pay tax for it. Now the state will also give a condition. Okay, build this project. Employ 5 or 50% of people working here should be indigent of Lagos. So all these mechanisms will be put in place. We should also consider the available people will build it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for your contribution.
0803 085 7755 or 0809 066 6909. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Your name and your location.
Okay, this is you, the calling from Expensive.
All right.
I want to talk about that 18 building story. The governor wants to build in Lagos. I think we should try to develop our state rather than using our money to develop other. I know that that project will bring revenue to the state, but let us invest our money in this our state. If we can use that money to build industry, I think some youth will be working in the industry rather than using our money to develop outside. Let us invest our money in our state so that we can benefit.
All right. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, let's hear from Fessa.
Before our guest will.
Good morning and welcome, Fessa.
Yes, good morning to
Yeah.
the government. I want to say, according to government using a military building in Lagos, I want to say it's not really a good idea to take that project to Lagos State, because that is another state. In accordance with we need development, more development in this state. For me, Lagos State is already developed, and Bible State is developing, trying to develop. The government should have used that money to create industries in Bible State. Like that science park that former governor wanted to build. I think that would have been a better idea for Pastor Minor to use that money to create that science park that was that Governor trying to build.
All right.
Instead of using Bible money to develop a Lagos State that is already developed.
Thank you.
If I may, how many industries do we have in this state? How many industries that is producing? If you don't have any industry that is producing anything in this country, in this state, so you go to the Lagos State, there are many industries, many manufacturing companies.
All right.
That are manufacturing things.
You've made your point.
Please, we need development in more development in this state.
Thank you.
We need more in the industry.
Thank you, Fessa. We have to go.
People can be
Employed, you're right.
Thank you. Let's get the last one
Thank
before
you
we
very
get
much.
reactions.
Before reaction from the media. Eight.
Hello.
Yeah, we're listening.
Good morning and welcome.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear us?
Again, please, your guest there, I think, is announcing to the governor.
Yes,
You're right.
yes.
What do you expect me to come and tell us? You're not going to tell us it. We should always invite somebody who works for this people to come and talk. You're not going to tell us what is the essence of going to the governor to build a state story dollar for what? What are you going to use it for? People that is built there, you, it's not functioning, they're not using it. Why? My sister, my brother, it doesn't make any sense for government to want to run units. So what we use the land? People are hungry. The land. I don't like listening to people like that. Nobody from the government comes to say, I don't like listening to them.
It's all right. It's okay. Of course, when they come. Let me interrupt you there. When they come, they have to let you know the government position. So they have every right to come to the microphone and talk about what the government is doing.
We should not be blaming them. Bring extra people that will come and tell us the truth.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have to go.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're entitled to your opinion. Thanks.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
My name is Solomon. I'm calling from you.
Welcome.
All right.
I want to contribute in the idea of our brothers that are talking in this state. This state, 5%, we need development. It's not that when the any company are coming, we now plan what to do it on its own and go and find the people or do it to the other place to do. Instead of trying to do it in the country and make it content to develop. Because that's the science partner, what our brother saying, is very interesting business in this time. And we have it. You look at China. If you go that time back here and you have the work, you will see that before you know the 5% will be like China. Because any production will be done in this 5%. But going to Lagos State now that they are ready for them, going greenhouses, and the time for maybe a problem between Igbo people and 5 people and the Lagos people, they are attacking the house to form the house. Or to destroy the building.
God forbid.
Let us build a house. If you want to build a house, let us build it here. Even if this thing that you're trying to, the federal government trying to do is not what to build for us. That as you call it, this thing that we want to do in the other.
Okay. Ibaka deep support.
The deep support. That thing in future, maybe there's a person that will come and fight for that thing. And this building now, what to build now, will work for that building, for that place. Because to build it now, if it doesn't work in now, in future, we will use that building. That has to go and build in another thing.
Thank you.
So we should have use it instead of really develop. So let's just develop on thing. I want you here and so been turning keke up and down. You don't have anything really.
So, it's all right.
So let's not do something that will improve our union to work.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We'll come to.
Let me take from the
Yeah,
immediate
to the,
last one.
in the
The
studio.
fact is that truth is relative. Everybody can hold an opinion and consider it as truth, but you cannot take away people's rights to expression. He has a right to express himself the way he did, but my concern when I started this program was the fact that as much as people want to give feedback to government, as a result of that feedback, government can also make clarifications to the people. That is where it is only an arrogant government that will say, I don't care about what the people is saying, let's go ahead and do this. But because this government is people-oriented, we listen to what our people are saying and say, okay, since people were somehow misinformed about the idea that the governor has, what we have done in the last couple of days is not to insult anybody, not to join issues with anybody, is to present facts as they are and tell people this is the truth and that is nothing but the truth. That's one side. I have said that this program that the government has done enough in terms of direct measures and interventions on cushioning the hardship that we're facing as a state. Unfortunately, whatever we do as a state and whatever hardships we are facing as a state is not only Akwa Ibom, it's across the country. Certain things that trickle down from the center to the state, and because we exist in the same nation as other states, we also have to suffer the same consequence of what happens at the federal level down to the state. But there are certain measures and interventions rolled out to cushion those effects. government, it is only when people are complaining of hunger and the government says, I'm not doing anything about it. Even the president commended His Excellency on June 12th as one of the governors who has rolled out measures of how to at least cushion the hardship we are facing in the country. Nobody can take away that fact. The first caller talked about other investments we've had over time that we need to build on. I am aware that the last administration secured a licensing for distribution of power. I was just trying to, when the first caller called, immediately went through my phone. I wanted to look at items. On the exclusive list, there are 62 items there. And the issue of power generation and distribution is a matter exclusively, it is the job of the federal government to do that. So there are certain limitations that we have. I think this concern or certain things that people talk about raises more concerns on the need for us to perhaps amend, because it is our laws that guide how we operate as a nation. So if we look at how we can do certain amendments and maybe leave certain matters to states to begin to act upon it. The issue of power generation, yes, we have a bomb power company. We're generating the power. But how about distribution? That's certain inhibitions we have. Okay. Not because we so want to do that as a state, but we're exploring measures on how to come out of that. And one was the issue of securing license from the federal government to distribute power. And I know that something's ongoing in that direction. The issue of the Bomb Science Park is, I know that it's very close to the heart of His Excellency. It formed part of major discussions, during the bomb dialogue which I talked about earlier. So until we are able to secure people, government cannot carry out projects like that without getting people who might be interested in terms of investing in it. So I'm aware that the governor is very passionate about matters that relate to young people, things that can stimulate the economy, and I'm very much sure and convinced that with time, the issue of the Bomb Science Park will be revisited. The issue of the bomb deep sea port also, it falls under the preserve of the federal government. It was a PPP arrangement, so we need to do our own part as a state. The federal government needs to do its own part, and then we talk about looking at an investor that would be ready to partner with the state to actualize the project. His Excellency made an open appeal to His Excellency Godswill Akpabio that he should help facilitate the federal government to give the bomb deep sea port the needed attention. So we shouldn't begin to have fears. My point is that if the government is deliberate on being accountable and transparent to the people, we should also do more in terms of trusting the government and not think that it will always go south. Unlike the others. So the other matter, somebody saying that we shouldn't take our resources, we shouldn't take our investments to other states. I would like to think that is a very very narrow mindset. Without insulting his his sensibilities or not. The reality is that if we want to be viable as a people, we must constantly look out for ventures that we can do that becomes a sort of what I wanted to call it, we can profiteer from it. There are other nations who are doing this. Even in developed countries, we always talk about in America. We don't talk about the investment that America carry out in other countries of the world, and those investments are done with the intention of bringing back dividends to the state. So if there are things we can do as a state, to help our people increase their revenue, we shouldn't stop doing that.
All right. My last question to you, first of all, before I go into the question, will be that the issue of power generation and distribution has actually been removed from the exclusive list. But then the question now is just for a sort of stock taking. Can you give us an insight on the companies that were the summary of the investment of the past governor Udom Emmanuel and the progress that has been made with those companies?
You shouldn't just take it from Udom Emmanuel. I think it would be proper for you to start from His Excellency Obon Victor, because I know we have a roadmap as a state in terms of the direction we need to go per time. Subsequent governments can always come in and refine the roadmap. So, but the master plan is what we should work on. The issue of the bomb deep sea port, the airport itself, the Godswill Akpabio Stadium. We talk about the bomb towers. the power company which I mentioned earlier. All of these, these investments are these projects. Initially, I'm aware that when His Excellency got like we wanted to start the stadium, I read some of the comments recently. As at then, people said it wasn't necessary. We don't need it. But currently, we have that is, are just the best in the country, and you have the CAF being more confident in terms of playing certain matches, at the Gospel Bible Center. So we also want to talk about that of His Excellency Mr. Emmanuel. I've mentioned the 21 towers. We cannot say because that has not completely been actualized in terms of there are certain phases you can face your development plans. If we've been able to build the project, fine. We should now look at ventures of how to make it more profitable for the state. And I'm aware that just a little Bonfito Atam made a suggestion recently that we can make that a World Trade, trade center. Those are suggestions that we need to, build on and see how we can attract them back.
Is it being considered as it is? Is it something that is in the works? Is it being considered by the executive?
I'm saying that these are conversations, and these conversations can only be continuous. We should continue to hold these conversations.
I'm asking this because they say that government is a continuum. So if we have to continue, after a particular administration, we leave a particular project, or we don't progress with the development of a particular project and then just abandon it, we'll continue to invest.
I am saying before you today that there is no project of the state ever embarked on that has been abandoned. Let me clarify. You want to talk about the Bomb Tropicana, started by His Excellency Gosula Pabio, and then His Excellency Udo Emmanuel made it, attracted the marketplace to it at the moment. Now we have the present government is saying that it wants to develop other sections of the Tropicana. Every government, would only do programs and policies based on the resources available to it. We should now just kill off that idea that anybody wants to abandon any project. You can only, each time you want to embark on a thing, you must assess yourself whether you have what it takes in terms, financially, to actualize that. If you have that, there's nothing that stops that as a state. So no project has been abandoned. Whether you want to talk about a science park, yes, somebody conceived it years ago. It hasn't seen the light of, it hasn't seen fruition up to now. But we are saying that no, it doesn't mean that idea has been jettisoned with. Ultimately with time, that is going to be perfected.
All right, so I got my last...
There's a new project coming up. Sorry, before you go, I'm not even going to ask you because there's no time. I have to let Ursula, but there's a new project on this Ibom Industrial Park.
Yes.
Coming up.
Yes.
We'll have more conversations on this.
And then that was also a master plan of the Urban Victor Tab administration.
Okay.
So these are the things that I want to say this without being without prejudice to anybody. I think we need to do more as a people in terms of getting ourselves informed. And personally, I've consumed the read the Akwa master plan. If you look at that master plan, it's one of the best that we have around the country. They can help us as a people. So we have Ibom Industrial Park in the town. Nobody until now knew that we have such. Most people did not know. So, but what is government doing? This administration is deliberate in revisiting most of the things that can help us to thrive. You hear the governor keeps on saying, show us what you can do, and government will support you to actualize it. So a seasoned entrepreneur who has developed himself through the ranks, built from scratch, is also determined to ensure that he helps other people to build and scale up their business.
Yes, scaling up business is my last question before I let you go. Amanam Omo Odofia is that well, recently not just the 18-story building was a high point of what the governor was doing while performing the foundation laying ceremony. He also spoke about his concerns on the local government autonomy recently granted by the Supreme Court. What are his reservations?
Reservations, the one before now he had emphasized on the issue of zoning, but recently that concern stems from the fact that everybody at this point with the autonomy, you should know that the local governments begin to pay salaries, pay pensions and gratuities. So we need to emphasize on competence. And before now, he has even said that a number of times with the transition committee, bring up your scorecard, go back and live within the locality. So the governor is very, very a concern
Passionate about it.
and passionate about who mans the local government, so that we don't return to the dark ages where, of what even led to the autonomy itself, or the scrapping of the autonomy, because salaries were being owed in those times.
All right.
So we don't want that.
Thank you very much for listening to the Back Pass today. We've been standing in for Mr. PATRYK EDEKE, and we've had this special advisor to the governor, special assistant to the governor on new media, Madam Hilary Mordofia. Thank you very much for coming in here. My name is Sharon Mandra. Once again, thank you very much for listening to the Back Pass.
All right, I am Anifiok Enquiry. Thank you too for being part of the Back Pass with PATRYK EDEKE. Bridged here, done by my colleague Sharon and I. Do hope you have a nice day.
Yeah, coming up in a few seconds is the global news. Do all to stay tuned.
Good morning.
Thank you very much.
There's nothing wrong with telling you everybody's agreeing with you. Nobody's agreeing with you.
Nobody's happy about it.
Nobody's agreeing with you. But then we cannot just say because